dun, dun. Okay.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
some slight
Yeah,
changes.
it's the only difference is the stop, drop, and roll versus soothing ice. Um, you should take the soothing ice.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I did not mean to.
Oh.
Anyway, okay. Go ahead and take that map change if you are seeing it, and we'll go ahead and get started. Um, what I was saying is, if you play Tempest in PvE, I want you to take what you know about Heal Tempest, and I want you to just compartmentalize it for now. Because Heal Tempest in PvE and in World versus World play very different roles. Um, Currently in like raids and strikes and stuff, Tempest is around to provide really big heals and to give alacrity. That is really not the goal of the World versus World Tempest. You provide lots of healing and lots of cleanse. So that's how they're kind of like a replacement for Scrapper. But they were still good before the Scrapper nerfs. It's just now they have more of a place because Scrappers don't have the exclusive stealth anymore. Um, yeah, so the first thing that you'll want to do is make sure that you're in Minstrel's gear. This is going to make a very big difference. If you find that you're going down a lot, it might be because you are in Harrier gear. I honestly, Ellie has a low HP pool to begin with, and we all know that. So if we want to live for a long time, we should be in gear that is giving us vitality and toughness over like Harriers. Because our goal is to keep ourselves alive so that we can keep everyone else alive. If you're in Harriers, you're going to go down a lot more, and that's just kind of how it's going to work. So yeah, make sure everything that you can is in minstrels. I know that it's a bit more expensive to do that, but it will be worth it. And I'm going to go ahead and link the runes that are like most ideal. Superior Rune of the Trooper. Um, a lot of it is due to that sixth skill that is like part of the runes. So you'll see that remove a condition from each affected ally after using a shout skill. And guess what Tempest uses a lot? Shout skills. So that will make a pretty big difference in how many cleanses that you are doing, as well as giving you some vitality and toughness. I've personally seen the difference between monk runes and the trooper runes, and it's a pretty significant difference. Monk runes are great for PvE healing, but they're not going to be the best for something like Heal Tempest in World versus World. The weapons are the dagger and the focus. And then you should be using these two sigils. So the thing about the superior sigil of cleansing, you can't buy it. How it's only craftable, and it's not at one of the Heart of Thorns vendors, unfortunately. It is going to be worth it to craft it. You can use Artificer, Huntsman, or Weaponsmith. I highly recommend Huntsman or Weaponsmith if you don't have any of those at level 400 over Artificer, because Artificer is a lot more expensive to level up.
You okay, Minty?
Yeah, I was testing to see if my breathing could be heard, so I guess I can be.
Yes.
Oh,
I know that sounded weird. No, I know it sounded weird, but I just got a whisper that said, "I think I can hear you breathing," and I'm like, I don't think it was me, but I'll test it to see if it was.
Yes, that was you.
Did you hear it all the other times before that?
Yes.
Your mic lights up, showing that your mic is open.
Oh, okay.
They cannot be traded, unfortunately. They are
Yes.
to craft them. So that is one of the only like kind of unfortunate parts of it, is that sigil can be a bit of a barrier, but Honestly, it's probably good to have at least one craft at level 400 between Huntsman, Weaponsmith, and Artificer anyway. Because that can also... What's up?
I have a question about that. It says when swapping weapons, as Ellie's, once we get into combat, we can't switch weapons.
I know, it procs every time you
Elements.
swap attunement.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why it is so valuable.
Got it.
It works the same with engineer kits. So if you want to, yeah, Trooper runes is definitely you can buy them. Yeah, when your skill bar changes, exactly.
Okay.
That's a good question though. Thanks. I know it. A lot of those things where it says like the weapon swap, I was confused when I was doing Ellie and engineer as well. No, you have to craft the superior sigil of cleansing. That's the only one that needs crafted. You can buy the trooper runes and the superior sigil of transference. So yeah, you can use energy as well if you can swap out either of those. So that's kind of personal preference. I usually am fine with dodges, but also having extra dodges never hurts. So if you don't want to craft the superior sigil of cleansing, it's very easy to swap that one out for energy. You'll just have a couple less Condi cleanses. But Tempest gives us a lot of access to it anyway. So yeah. Getting into the weapon skills. Elementalist has a lot because you have 4 whole elements worth of skills. So as far as like the dagger skills, fire, I'm just gonna start with fire because that's the first one on the bar. So if you look at the fire overload, it gives the fire aura and it gives the might, protection, swiftness, and stability. The biggest difference between the build that I have provided and the one that was already in our Discord is the harmonious conduit. I think this is incredibly helpful. Over. Do you want just like a?
No, just if anyone has a dagger, so I can actually see the.
Give
Not
him
a
the
boot.
crappiest dagger you
I
could
could have
find.
go buy him, but if somebody has some on it,
Done.
thank you.
You can also go to the hero panel, and if you look at the weapon skills and scroll down a little bit, you can see dagger main hand, and it'll show you all of the different options. Yeah. So the harmonious conduit means that you should be using an overload as we're clashing, because then you'll just have some stability already right as we're in the start of the fight. Personally, I start in fire, but I know people who have started. It is in the Tempest trait line. It's the second column. I suggest
Question.
Harmonious Conduit over Invigorating Torrents because of the stability.
Since we're in a group situation with our firebrands and everything, do we need to have a
I got
much
here a
person
little bit
tab?
late. Have you went over the build, or you're just starting it?
Just starting going over the build.
Okay. Okay.
So here's the thing. Even if you have a firebrand with you, it's always good to have some self-stability. Especially on the overloads. Yeah. Because you can always get interrupted on overload, and then yeah, it's not fun. But having the stability helps prevent that. And it's also just, say we're in like the end of a fight and your firebrand is tapped out on stability skills, having that ability to pop some self-stability can really help your firebrand out, and you can continue healing everybody.
Is there a noticeable drop in healing compared to the invigorating turrets?
Not really, because of Elemental Bastion, because then you're just healing every time you give an aura. And as long as you have the powerful aura in water, you are granting any auras that you give yourself to all your allies.
Yep.
I really have not noticed a significant drop in healing.
And honestly, you're not gonna notice a heal difference because of the way regeneration works. You're just adding time to the other characters that are already applying regeneration.
Right.
Yeah, so
Depends how high your healing power is for that.
So we're
So,
going
I
for more
mean-
like the big burst heals as opposed to little ticks over time.
Yeah. Honestly, regen is a very nice boon. I'm not like dissing regen. But if we're talking like utility in a big clash between like 50 people, probably gonna find stability a little more useful than regen, especially with how much burst healing Tempest has. So as far as why focus as your offhand as opposed to other weapons, it mostly comes down to fire, honestly. So you can. That is the weapon 5 skill for focus. So first it is fire shield, and then it is the transmute fire, which cleanses and gives might. And the nice thing about it is you can kind of recharge it. So you'll see it by default has like a 17-second cooldown. The second that you use your overload fire, you get another tick of the transmute fire. And if you use feel the burn, it is another transmute for it. And when you swap to fire in combat, it's another tick of that transmute fire. So that's a lot of Condi cleanse. Yeah, there's Feel the Burn. So as far as Feel the Burn versus Eye of the Storm, you should always keep Aftershock. But as far as the difference between those two, my recommendation is that if you are new to trying Tempest, you start out with Eye of the Storm. It is a stun break for your whole party. It gives super speed. It gives stab. It's very nice for like crisis situations. And if you're not sure how comfortable you are with Tempest yet,
So, Liam?
Yeah, you don't get the stab though when we're in World v World.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot that they made that change.
Yep, that's
Yeah,
the
it's
one
this-
problem doing in the guild hall when you're looking at skills versus like going to the Bastion Armistice.
Yeah, I would say living the dream, but you don't normally take that anyway. Unless you're tanking or want to. Anyway, yeah, so it doesn't give the stab in World versus World. Sorry. I was just reading it. But in World versus World, it's mostly that stun break and the super speed. It's not like the longest amount of super speed in the world. Really, it's just it's a good stun break. But as you're feeling comfortable with Tempest, you might want to swap it to Feel the Burn. It's basically just a less cleansing versus more of a safety net for yourself. So that's kind of something that you'll have to feel out. I use Feel the Burn. I know Roselle uses Feel the Burn. I'm sure a couple other people use it.
Yeah.
But if you're just starting out, it's probably going to be a little easier to take Eye of the Storm and sacrifice a couple less cleanses. So with the way that the build is set up, every time that you switch to water, you're doing some Condi cleanse. And that is thanks to the cleansing wave trait that's in water. So if you are seeing everybody with a bunch of Condis in your party, you can swap to water, and that will cleanse some just inherently. So I mean that's pretty nice. Usually my rotation is starting in fire, then moving to water once I finish with my transmutes. But I know. Yeah. Yeah, any fields. So like if you see that there's a combo field, so Overload Fire is both a combo field and a finisher, so it's the fire field and it's the combo finisher whirl.
From a point of view of someone who is in game and not playing Ellie, is there something that the Ellies can be calling that says, "Hey, I think you can blast this"?
Yeah, that's
I mean,
what we call fire fields down.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I usually when I saw fire fields, it's been fire brands, and that's why I bring that up. So if if is it just water and fire, or are there other things that are blastable that can be adapted to the group during the run?
Overload Air gives the lightning field.
Yeah, lightning will blast swiftness to your party, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean there are things that you can blast, but it's probably Aftershock is a blast as well. Yeah, I would say, I mean, yeah, you can run staff. I do most cleanses with Dagger Focus.
You're
gonna
going to
teach.
with rotations.
Yeah, I'm gonna teach Dagger Focus because it's what I prefer. But if you want to use staff, I'm certainly not going to come to your house and tell you that you're a bad Tempest and tell you to take it off. Like, do what you want. um, yeah. I just find like in like long-term clashes, I prefer Dagger Focus for sure. If you are going to be a support, then you should probably make sure that you are in party view. Just as like a general rule for supports if you new to that, and that helps you figure out when you should be using your cleanses. So yeah, obviously you want to wash the pain away. I mean, it's pretty awesome. Aftershock is great because of both the magnetic aura, and like the immobilize that it puts down. It's a nice CC skill for enemies. And when say Deads is calling for reflects, you can hit Aftershock, and magnetic aura is a reflect. You can also go into Earth. This is another reflect on the focus, magnetic wave. And then obviously if you overload Earth, it gives magnetic aura. I'm gonna say this right now. Do not use rebound as a reflect. Do not use rebound on siege. Do not use rebound on a lord. If you think that enemies could be in our vicinity at any time, do not waste rebound. If you think that rebound is bad, that is just incorrect. That's the only thing that I am not going to compromise on. Like, rebound is a good skill. Rebound is one of the best parts of Tempest. If you read it, you will see why. And the main thing is allies who would take lethal damage while this is active ignore the death glow and are healed instead. So if you are using that when we have Katas down for reflect, that is not the right time to be using it. It has a long cooldown. Do not use it if Bob is behind, if Dusk is behind that wall and we are sitting on siege, I am begging you not to waste rebound. Because it is a lifesaver. The amount of times that I've been in driver party and say the driver is at like 10%, you could hit rebound and the driver will not die. And then you have some time to use other heals and get them back up. It is an amazing skill, both in PvE and World versus World. It is, don't just use it for an aura. That is using rebounding correctly. And that's really I'm not gonna budge on that. Otherwise, the reason that I bring the glyph, so I'm going to try to start calling these out. I would encourage any other Tempest to call out if they're going to use glyphs. You revive an ally, but every single element has like a different sort of gimmick to it. So fire is you will revive the next time you're downed. Yeah, thank you, Anton. Really, the one that I use the most is definitely Renewal of Earth. You can revive several people at once. That's a big deal in a big clash. A lot of times, if you see a stack of our players who are downed, then it's definitely a good idea to go ahead and drop that glyph. It takes a second to cast. You can move while you're casting it, so like you're not gonna end up stuck if you're casting it. Yeah, it changes with each element, which is really nice. If you see someone like super far away, you can pull them to you with the air one. It is a 900 range, but I mean that's still pretty good, especially in terms of like what the space in a battlefield.
You can move because you can move after casting as well. You can get actually a lot of range up with that.
Yeah, I definitely like the Earth one the most because of how large it is and because of how many people you can bring up. It can make a huge difference in big clashes. Like if you're hearing the driver say win the rally war, or if you're hearing if you're hearing someone call that, you should probably be looking to use glyph. I haven't been calling it because I'm shy and don't like talking. But I will do my best to call it out when I'm using it. I go on push to talk during the actual runs though, so it's a little hard to land it and also hit my push to talk button. But I will be making an effort to call it out. I think it can be very helpful to give people an idea that they're going to be coming back up. Otherwise, it can be a bit of a jump scare to just suddenly jump back up in the middle of combat surrounded by enemies. Especially if you were not expecting that. So, yeah.
Just to add on to that, people should be expecting to come back up. Either maybe we'll kill somebody and you'll rally. Just be ready to come back up. Don't, if you're down, still do stuff.
Yep,
yeah,
100%.
For sure.
And even if you go down, I mean, based on the situation, the fight's not over. Right? If you can get back to us quickly, do so. Like when we're fighting right outside our spawn, run right back. If you die immediately, but always be expecting that someone's going to go for the res.
Yeah, I put it out there that it's good to call it just because of all the different types of reses. It's gonna be different than like the Firebrand Signet where it's just one person, or like IOL. So it's not a bad idea for Tempest to start calling it. Yeah, so I recommend that over 3 shouts. Again, it's not like something like Flash Freeze is bad. Because Frost Aura is pretty nice. But Glyph is just bigger value. In my opinion. So those are kind of like the most important parts of the build. Yeah, no problem. Thanks. Oh, jump puzzles should be fun. Anyway, in terms of like the weapon skills and stuff, if driver is calling for CC, it doesn't hurt to do things like Comet, which is one of the focus skills. It literally says shout in the tooltip. You can see, if it says shout in the tooltip, then it is a shout. Yeah, they're Tempest. Yeah, they're all Tempest ones.
Exclusive.
You can also look for the quotation marks in the name, but it doesn't always work.
Yeah, there are, but for as terms of LE skills, they are Tempest exclusive. Other classes do have shouts, but no other LE specs have shouts. I really enjoy the overload air for CC potential. And for so like this on the focus blocks projectiles. And this is a pretty good CC. And then of course there's the transmute lightning, which is shocking aura, and then it transmutes lightning. Yeah, it's a little shorter cooldown in PvE. Yeah, that's the thing. Just bear in mind that some of the cooldowns and some of the specific boons are gonna look a little bit different. But I wasn't going to take us all to a borderland and lose participation for everyone for the training. It's probably a good idea to like do a cursory read over of everything once you're in World vs. World and look at it all again.
Good question. With the shocking aura, because it says that they can only be stunned once every per 2 seconds. Is that because we can't layer auras, can we? Like if two Tempests are in the same thing, we can't actually layer the aura, but we can explode each other's auras on top of us.
Yes.
So can we keep like reapplying over each other like that?
If you stagger them correctly, yes. But odds are you're not normally going to get two Tempests in the same party.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I would even argue that it's probably not a great idea to have two Tempests in the same party. Just because of stuff like rebound. It's good to like spread that out so that if we're in like a big clash and everyone's going down at once, the Tempest in each party can hit rebound, and that can make like a huge difference. And sure, sometimes that stuff like overflows to people outside of our party, but that's a bit of a gamble versus the knowing that there's one in each party. In terms of like how to start out in a fight, like I said, I start in fire, but I know like Anton starts in air. So it's gonna be up to you and like what sort of things you prefer in terms of entering the fight. So feel free to like experiment with that. That's one thing that I really like about what I mean, I chatted with him a lot in terms of like what he does versus what I do to get like a sense. What I really like about Tempest versus something like Scrapper, and I love Scrapper. I'm an NG main. I'll just put that out there. I'm not dissing Scrapper, but in terms of World versus World and like the flexibility of what you can do as a support player, there are more options for Tempest, and there are different ways that you can play it and still be successful. If you're, I'm not saying that like you should go in and like change every single like trait and stuff. That's not what I'm saying. But in terms of like how you want to start out, what weapons you find work for you. The Feel the Burn versus Eye of the Storm stuff. It's nice because you can kind of work out how you prefer entering fights. Yeah, so that's the bulk of what I wanted to cover. I volunteered to do the training a lot because of how I noticed people were using Rebound. It's a pretty audible skill. And I saw some people slandering Rebound in squad chat the one night, and I was like, I'm not standing for this. It is a very, very good
It's one of the best
skill.
skills.
Yeah, like, yeah, you could do that, but I'm going to judge you for it, and I'm not afraid to say that, because Rebound should be used for other reasons.
And it goes down to 60 seconds inside of World v. World 2, so it's a little bit quicker than it is in PvE.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if the thing is, especially if you know that we're about to, like, fight a big group, especially because we're against... You can have that opinion. I significantly disagree with you, and I've seen how it can save parties repeatedly, but, I mean, that's up to you. Yeah.
5k heal is
I
nothing
mean,
to snuff at.
Yeah.
It'd be
I
one of
wouldn't
those things,
call
I
it...
guess. Because we can stack all the stuff. Because we can hit aftershocks. I mean, the rebounds already applies, and then be in another thing while we're healing, or add some sort of protection, or do something else. So when
Yeah,
it goes
exactly.
off, we're already stacking stuff up.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not like... I mean, there are a million ways that you can get auras. So, yeah. It is not the longest cooldown in World vs. World, but especially when we're going to be fighting someone like Dusk this upcoming week, yeah. You're probably not going to want... And remember that you cannot, like, reflect arrow carts. So if you're trying to reflect, like, Siege, that's not how it works. So Magnetic Aura will not, like, reflect arrow carts. I mean, if there's, like, a bunch of Rangers and mechs, I like to use Aftershock or go into Earth Attunement and give Earth Aura that way. But, yeah, I would just say that's... Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, it's a little... I mean, if you see someone, like, with a box in their hand, like, if you visually see that, then yeah, pop a Reflect. But, I mean, otherwise, it's not going to be, like, the biggest value Reflex. Unless there's an NG with, like, Mortar Kit or something, then I say go for it. I really enjoy roaming on Tempest, too, because you can basically just give a big, screw you to any Rangers and, especially, Mechanists that you see. I find that the Reflect power on Tempest is just awesome. But yeah, that's really what I wanted to cover. The big changes in the build based that differ from the one that we already had was the glyph, and then the giving stability and swiftness when starting an overload. So let me know if there's any other questions, and hopefully that was more than just me rambling for 30 minutes.
You did good on the rambling, by the way. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Does the soothing ice keep going off every time we get critically hit, or is there a timer
Yes,
to
there
it?
is an internal cooldown that pops up, but it's only like 20 seconds or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same thing with your elemental bastion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's going to be internal cooldowns for most of those things, but yeah.
Oh yeah, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I really enjoy Tempest. It's oh yeah, the cleanses. So all of your shouts are going to give cleanses, because of how the build is set up and everything. And if you look at some of the traits, like this one, applying auras to allies removes conditions, transmuting auras removes conditions. So that whole transmute thing that I mentioned, so there's the transmute fire and the transmute lightning. Those are going to be some big cleanse potential.
Especially since those cleanses are going out to everybody because of powerful aura. And you're going to be spamming auras out like crazy. Just going through normal rotations. You get a lot of AoE cleanse.
Yeah, so I mean, it's pretty cleanses are pretty accessible for Tempest. Even just like going into an overload will give some cleanses. If you're still getting used to it, it can be really easy to kind of spam all of the cleanses at once. So I would say you're going to want to rotate through your cleanse skills a little slower than you expect. Because you don't want to use like all of them right at once. Because then there's going to be like a cooldown wait period, and not all of them are going to be like a super long cooldown. But that's just like a general thing. It's going to have to be a little slower than you might expect.
With that said, in terms of callouts, when Commander says to like might up and stuff, should we bother stacking might, or should we save that for the cleanse if it comes up, or just call it by you?
It depends.
Yeah, I was gonna.
That's when it's you gotta get used to playing the class and getting a feel for it. Because once you know kind of your rotation and your timing of how you go through things, with your shouts, with your actual using some of your fields and blasts, because when you blast, you'll also be popping like if you're on water. And again, this is me and staff. I can then go and pop this, and there now everybody has an aura because I popped an aura. There's cleanses, so it's one of those you have a lot of cleanse in your kit. So if they're calling for might and we're going to be preparing for a charge. This is back in Scrapper days with stealth. You would pop it because you're going to have a couple seconds while everybody is blasting and all that, and then we have the charge before the clash that you're going to get into the clash. You're going to be using your other shouts and cleanses. That by the time that it's already coming up in rotation again for your feel the burn.
Sure.
So yeah, exactly like he said, it's going to kind of be something to get a feel for. If we are like if we're stacking up here and let's say that like Dusk is on the arrow that I just placed, sometimes I will go ahead and when Commander calls for might, I'll use this as we go in because I should be able to like transmute fire in time for the clash. But if we're stacking on my tag and Dusk is over on that arrow, then it's probably going to be a better idea just to save some of your bigger might giving things for when we're actually clashing. It's kind of like a timing thing. Because a lot of the might skills will also end up doing Condi Cleanse. So, I mean, that's just one example of it. I tend not to use Feel the Burn or something like that when they call for might. Just because it has a fairly long cooldown. I would rather have it when we actually start clashing.
Okay. I can go over the rotation I use as an opening if you want. Because I'm usually pretty good at. There's a nice pause Deads does. I haven't quite figured it out with Phoenix yet. But there's a good pause where you can start to predict the might up times and you can start your fire attunement you have that fire field, and you're giving a shit ton of might just passively from it. So, because I usually open fire also, and that's what I do. So for like the rotation, you would do fire attunement, open, and you'd let that proc, and then you could blast water 3 and then earth 4, and then it should be close to 20 might stacks for, I think, 20 seconds or more. And then you can switch to air for the opening push for shocking aura, and that's like my opener for that kind of push. Because I too like to save the fire shout.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty close to how I start out. I'm a fire enjoyer. I'll admit it. I really enjoy fire attunement. But there's definitely something to be said for pretty much starting out in any of the overloads. I mean, I typically don't like to use overload water right at the start, though. Just because unless we're literally walking into like a huge wall of damage in like the immediate clash, I think it's probably going to be better suited for like second or third attunement swap.
Yeah, that's why you start overload fire, because you're giving it's not that useful, and you're not doing damage. That's what it's not what it's for, and you have the transmute from it ready in case they do a big bomb.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was gonna say I never actually use the overload fire because I'm constantly switching back through it to proc that that ability that whenever you go into fire, you get the aura, and then when you go out of it, you get the flame explosion.
Flame explosion.
Yeah. So I'm constantly
and you never
rotating
overload fire.
Yeah. Well, that was going to be my
Most
question.
people will
Anyone
tell you
actually
not
overload
to.
fire?
Yeah.
Good.
Because
most people will
what's
tell you
going
not
on-
to.
That's why I use it before the fight. When Dez is like, my call, just open up with it because you're not going to use it.
Yeah, for nuance, if you're looking at normal rotations, if you go through normal attunement, it's only a 10-second recharge. If you overload, it turns into a 20-second recharge for locking you out of that attunement. So that's why you'll see people say don't overload, because you're wanting to try to get back to it as quick as possible, so that way you can again do your focus 5 or your transmutes.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why I start the fight overloading into fire, but I do not go back and do that. Your other attunements though, you should definitely be overloading before you swap to the other elements. Any other questions? I can hand off the tag to whoever is running tonight. I mean, fresh air is really fun, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it is.
Fresh air, Tempest, full run.
Oh,
you're late.
That's
That's been said
I was
3 minutes
thinking that
ago.
actually.
Thank you, Dragon, for your obviously obvious. All right, so no one has a question. Come on. Yes. No.
I have a question.
I probably have an answer.
Did you know that there's a Tempest training 1 hour before the
shut
run?
the fuck up. Okay, we're done.